Cuen-Butimea as a person, as a human being, and not as George Kelly described him, as an animal.
He says, there's the body of an animal, you know, as opposed to a vegetable or a mineral. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to get dispatch to acknowledge what he's saying. He's not trying to treat anybody like within an inhumane manner.
The words of defendant and Arizona rancher George Kelly were used against him right out of the gate during opening statements.
There were no signs. There was no signs of blood. There was just an animal laying face down.
An animal?
An animal, and you know what an animal is. It's not a vegetable or a mineral.
Okay.
It's a body, and you know what I'm talking about.
Animal. This is how the defendant described victim Gabriel Cuen-Butimea to the sheriff's office on January 30th, 2023. Butimea was a Mexican citizen passing through the defendant's property on the day in question. To hear the rest of the state's theory, let's recap the top 3 moments from their opening statement. Here the shooting is described from the victim's point of view.
Gabriel and Daniel stayed together, and they decided they were going to go back into Mexico and just give this a try another day. And so they were running, fleeing from Border Patrol, running pretty fast for about a half an hour. Daniel didn't even have time to register that there was a residence around. The only thing Daniel saw was a red horse, a skinny red horse. And he saw that horse off to his right. He's walking along a dirt path. Dirt path is sort of off to their right. And he sees this skinny red horse off to his right. And they're walking along and they see this skinny red horse. And out of nowhere, a barrage of semi-automatic assault rifle fire comes their direction. And they're walking, and Daniel sees Gabriel just a few feet ahead of him get hit in the back with the assault rifle fire, and he sees him grab his chest and say, "I'm hit," and he sees him fall in front of him and die.
Now let's see how the state describes the incident from the defendant's point of view.
Just sort of to give you a little bit of an idea, George Kelly's house is about a little less than 1.5 miles from the United States-Mexico border. His property is about 170 acres, and it's surrounded by a large ranch, the Buena Vista Ranch. The Buena Vista Ranch is on the west side of his property, so the Nogales side, and the south side of his property. On the east side of his property is National Forest, and to the north is that Keno Springs residential area. Excuse me. And George Kelly was in his house that day making his lunch when he saw something outside that caught his attention. Instead of calling 911, he has his .40 caliber handgun on his hip. He goes to his back door, grabs his AK-47, and tells his wife to call the Border Patrol, ranch liaison specifically. And his name is Jeremy Morcell. And so Wanda Kelly picks up her phone, calls the Border Patrol, and George Kelly goes outside and lets off a barrage of semi-automatic assault rifle fire.
And now maybe the most alarming moment from the state's opening is when the defendant's own words are read to the jury.
And then when he eventually gets to the point that he's marked a body with a flashlight, he tells her, "I have it marked, I've got a flashlight on over it." And the dispatcher says to him, "Do you know who it is that you saw?" And he says, "No, I didn't say I saw any body. I just saw a body." And then he goes on to say, and from what in that I only approached the body to make sure that the animal, it's not a vegetable or a mineral, the animal wasn't alive, and it was not alive. There was no signs of blood. There was just an animal laying face down, an animal. And you know what an animal is. It's not a vegetable or a mineral, it's a body. And you know what I'm talking about.
So there you have it. The state believes that George Kelly saw a migrant on his property, and instead of calling the police, he took matters into his own hands. The defense, on the other hand, claims that George Kelly just fired warning shots into the direction of the people he saw on his property. Let's recap their top moments next.
This happens so fast, but this single shot that he hears changes everything in his mind. He knows that something is happening outside, something violent, something dangerous. That single shot might not be the last shot fired. That might be the first of many shots that he hears. All of this processes through his mind in less than a second. Just hearing that single shot, suddenly everything is different. Suddenly, this might go very badly. Wanda's with him. She didn't hear the shot. Wanda wears hearing aids, and those were fading. And she doesn't hear noises that are happening outside like that, even when they're working to the best of their abilities. But Mr. Kelly heard that shot, and he knew that he and his wife were in danger. Time in a moment like that is really suspended, and people start acting. There's not a lot of logical thought process. There's action. Some people freeze, some people act. And Mr. Kelly acted. He took action in order to protect himself and to protect his wife.
Another standout moment came when the defense claimed the defendant's words were changed by authorities.
Agent Larkin, whether on purpose or by accident, but in a very big way, changes Mr. Kelly's words. Mr. Kelly, according to Agent Morcell, who spoke with Mr. Kelly, said, something may have been struck. I need you to, something may have been struck earlier. Agent Larkin takes that, and he says to the dispatcher, the homeowner's reporting, I may have struck something. He said, I may have struck something. Not what Mr. Kelly said. Makes a big difference, though. Makes all the difference, possibly. This monumental statement goes to the dispatcher with the sheriff's department. This is the person who's responsible for telling the deputies who are going out there, responsible for telling them, here's what you're going to see, here's what you're going to encounter, this is the call that came in. So when she gets on the radio to tell the deputies to go out there, she's saying, you know, the homeowner says he may have shot someone. Now it's not may have struck someone, it's he may have shot someone. That's what the homeowner said. I may have shot someone. Not what Mr. Kelly said.
Perhaps the most notable moment from the defense opening statement was when they claimed there was no proof that the shot came from Kelly's gun and that the victim was a quote-unquote criminal. Let's listen.
The biggest thing is there's no bullet. And when there's no bullet, there's no proof. We can't prove that Mr. Kelly's rifle fired the shot that hit Gabriel. We can't prove it. And at the end of the day, the evidence is going to show that Gabriel is living a criminal lifestyle, and criminal lifestyles are dangerous. The evidence will show that there's one shot fired before Mr. Kelly leaves his house, and Gabriel died as a result of one shot. One shot, one bullet hole. That's what the evidence is going to show. The person responsible for firing that single shot is also the person responsible for Gabriel's death that day. And that person is not Mr. Kelly. Law enforcement had a bias going into this investigation, and they wrapped the evidence around Mr. Kelly. They decided he was guilty, and they made it work.
Kelly's defense team alleges that the crime scene was tainted and that Kelly is being framed by drug traffickers. The state argues that the 75-year-old killed Butimea without any legal justification. As the trial unfolds, keep it here at Law and Crime for gavel-to-gavel coverage on the Killing on the Ranch case.